on the mighty horse from the Perth. Northerly, what a fantastic performance. What a great race, boys.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. And very nice of Damien Oliver to think of Colin Browell, who's quite sick at the moment. We watch the replay. There's Sunline in front, Northerly down the outside. Look, if you're worried about protest, I don't think you could possibly lose the race, even if there was one, which, of course, there hasn't been yet. I think what Damien Oliver said, Sunline definitely contributed. She's come out right there. And she gave Viscount a lot worse squeeze than Northerly, with Oliver clearly trying to pull the offside rein to keep Northerly off Viscount. But Viscount, well, he was the ham in the sandwich, Ronnie Dovesy.
He certainly was. I think Oliver was just holding his ground there. I think Sunline's to be 90% of the interference there. Yeah,
he was the initial move in Northerly, but as Oliver said, he just stuck in a touch. He pulled him straight off, and he's got no worries. Northerly has won the Cox Plate fairly and squarely, and he's the champion for the year 2001. And what a champion he is. The West Australian, great horse, champion horse, Freddie Kersley, champion trotting driver and trainer, now has proved he's right up there with the best thoroughbred trainers. And, well, what more can you say about Damien Oliver? Now, Simon Marshall has just told me down the line he spoke to Karen McAvoy. McAvoy is definitely going to protest. We're not sure whether that's third against second or third against second and first. But McAvoy has just told Simon Marshall, I will be protesting. So take note of that. So the Cox Plate hasn't finished. Like the Caulfield Cup, there is going to be a protest.
Yeah, it's interesting, Ken, isn't it, that... I mean, Damien Oliver will get all the accolades, but not a person is left here, I think, in the expectation of we're going to hear more about it. Everyone on course has seen the front-on footage. We've seen it here at home, and everyone is expecting, wait for the siren to go, because I have no doubt, I agree with you completely, and if Kieran McAvoy has said that, there will be a protest in the 2001 Carlton Draft Cox Plate.
Yeah, we've just got to check whether it is third against second or third against second and first. I feel, Ronnie Dovesy, he's got a great chance of getting third against second. Yeah. I don't think he could possibly get against the winner.
I'd like to be on the winner. I think it's pretty safe to winner, but it's a 50-50 go the other one.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right. And there are the winning connections of this horse. As Anne-Marie Sparkman told you, unwanted as a yearling, and now he's a champ. The best horse in Australasia, the West Australian freak, Northerly, and what a performance. 11 from 16, they throw him up to him. The tougher the opposition, the better he gets. And, well, he's one super-duper racehorse.
He's an absolute freak.
That's exactly
Damien
right,
Oliver read it right, didn't he? All the press conferences during the week that were held leading into this big race, he said, aren't I on the form horse? And he is on the form horse. He came here for this spring. He just kept winning. He's saying, well, why is everyone talking Sunline? Why is everyone talking Silvano? I've knocked them off. We've knocked everyone off. And you don't seem to be talking much about us. So it's really interesting that he read it very well. Well, what we do have now quickly is Steve McKee, the trainer of Sunline. He's down there with Tim Sheridan.
Yeah, Steve, mate, what were you thinking? A couple of 100 metres from home, maybe 300 metres from home?
Yeah, well, you know, she was obviously travelling well the whole way, and when she kicked, she had a good kick on her, and the rest were under heavy pressure. But the only thing was Northerly was still chasing. You know, he looked as though he would gone, but he always seems to pick up again the last 200 or 300. So, yeah, good on him. Still a mighty effort from your mare. Oh, great effort. Couldn't be disappointed, and you know, she won't go down in history with the king, but not far off.
Yeah. Where to now, mate?
She's home tomorrow night. We'd have to decide whether we're going to Hong Kong with her. Probably not, but we'll get over this one first.
Okay, mate. Thanks. Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Steve McKee there with Tim Sheridan, the trainer of Sunline. Kenny, Ronnie, take us through this overhead shot again.
Okay, that's Sunline, of course, in front. The German horse is on the rails behind her. In the centre behind her is Viscount, and that's Northerly out widest in the yellow, predominantly yellow colours. Now, there's a tiny move in from Northerly just here. Then then Sunline comes out, and it makes Viscount the ham in the sandwich. I don't think he was going to win, but he sure got shook up.
He certainly did. He never balanced up. It was a fantastic run by the 3-year-old. He held his own here, and she just starts to wander out. I think McAvoy's just trying to give him a bit more room there.
About now, Ron, yeah. She comes out.
Yep, she definitely comes out.
Yeah.
And he's just holding his ground now. He's not giving an inch, Oliver.
What a thriller. What a thriller in the Cox Plate. And Damien Oliver didn't panic when Sunline led on her own. For all those people who thought he'd be up putting the pressure, he wasn't going to ruin his own chance. He bided his time, and what a cool customer he is. He's the best jockey in the land, and you just saw why.
Exactly.
Brett Kersley, he'd be feeling absolutely fantastic at the moment, ecstatic with the work of his horse. And fellas, one of those things again, you know, Steve McKee just mentioned it. It looked like Northerly was gone at about the 400 metre mark. He just isn't. Head in the air, wavering over the place, but he just keeps finding ground and ground and ground.
He's one of those blokes, if you were fighting him, Simon, you'd put a few on his chin, he'd be wavering on the ropes, but he'd keep coming back.
The first thing you do is make sure you didn't fight him, I can tell you that, kid.
He's an ugly duckling who just knocked off all the good sorts, and he'll keep doing so the way he's racing.
That's right. He might go on like a good sort when they want him to go out and work on the track and play up and not want to do it there, but he sure produces on race day. We're just standing by here. McAvoy is obviously looking at the tape. He's obviously getting some counsel from Connections what to do about the protest, and we'll hear, the moment we hear that on course, we'll tell you what young McAvoy is doing.
Okay, we're just going to take a quick break here from Moonee Valley. Come back with all the action right after this. Welcome back to Moonee Valley with the news. We spoke to you before the break, predicted there would be a protest. The first protest is third against first and second, alleging interference from the 150 to the winning post. So Kieran McAvoy against Oliver and Childs on Northerly and Sunline.
That's correct. And then, Ronnie, there's been a further protest.
Well, I think you'll find there's been a protest second against first. Sunline against Northerly as well.
Well, I think he's dreaming.
He's dreaming.
Well, let's go to the steward wood anyway, fellas, and see who is dreaming and who is not.
Mr. Kersley, you're the trainer of... Just make way for Mr. Kersley in the Connections of Northerly. Mr. Kersley, you're the trainer of Northerly.
Yes.
Are the Connections here?
I don't think they're finished.
So you're representing the Connections?
I will.
Greg Childs, you are the rider of Sunline, and Mr. McKee, you're the trainer, and your Connections, are they here, or are you representing them? You're representing, and Karen McAvoy, you're the rider of Viscount, and Mr. Hawkes, you're the trainer of Viscount. And your Connections not here? You're representing it. Are they here? Mr. Ingham? Mr. Ingham, just make room for Mr. Ingham in front here. On the back. All right, Mr. Ingham. Now, Karen McAvoy is the rider of Viscount third place getter. You've lodged objections against Northerly being declared the winner and Sunline being declared second place getter on the grounds of alleged interference in the straight. And Greg Childs, rider of Sunline, second place getter, has lodged an objection against Northerly being declared the winner on the grounds of interference from the 100 metres.
Yes.
All right, and your objection, Karen McAvoy, was from the 150 metres. The margin between the horses was 3/4 of a length between first and second, and a long head between second and third. Now, the Connections of Viscount and Sunline have viewed the Stewart's Patrol video and also the TV version. We'll have a look at all the videos together and then get your submissions in respect of the objection. The TV version we'll look at first while we're getting the other one ready. That's in the right-hand screen. Is it? All right, yeah.
Okay, we're getting a bird's eye view here of what all the Connections, trainers, jockeys and stewards are going to see. We'll get different angles of the finish from the first protest. That's from the 150 mark to the winning post, third against first and second.
Yes, and then what happens here, they've got the most high-tech equipment. They show the finish from all angles to the Connections, to the jockeys who protest. They then ask them if there's any other videos they wish to see, which they can stop frame them for them as well. Then they ask, firstly, Kieran McAvoy to state his case against Childs on Sunline and also against Oliver on Northerly. After that, they'll then ask Childs to state his case against Northerly. Once they've done that, after McAvoy's put in his protest, Childs and Oliver will be able to speak against his claims or asked if they want to. Then the Connections of all horses will be asked if they want to do anything. or if they've got anything to say, and similarly with Sunline's protest against Childs. The protest will be heard simultaneously, but in a way they're held separately. It's everybody gets a fair go, I can promise you that. The stewards will do a masterful job here, as they always do. I just feel, with the winning margin being 3/4 of a length on Dufficy, that there's no hope of Northerly losing the Cox Plate, and I'm absolutely staggered what Greg Childs has protested against.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. 3/4 of a length is too much. The other protest has got a good hope, as we see here now. She's just coming out and finishing him off. And Childs, well, you said it before, he's dreaming.
Now, could he protest that Northerly came in and brought Viscount across onto him, or do you have to protest against Viscount?
No. He can protest against the horse that's caused him the trouble.
Indirect interference,
which in this case is Northerly. Now, Northerly's out 3D. What's the first little movement from Northerly? Now, just as Oliver changes to the inside hand, Northerly comes in just a touch, just here, right now. All of a sudden, Viscount gets a little bit of a squeeze. Now what's Sunline? She goes straight across both of them, with Northerly still hanging in, but watch where he's on the ground. He hasn't really come in anymore. Viscount's tried to push out there because Sunline's taken his running. I just can't see where Childs thinks he's going to get a race from.
She got very off balance there, but it was her own doing. It was her coming out.
And Ron, the stewards very much, and Des Gleeson very much so, considers, was the result of the race affected? And I can't see how Northerly wouldn't have won it.
No way. He had him covered.
Northerly hung in for a long period of time, probably 3 or 4 strides, didn't he?
He did, he hung in, but then when you watch where he is in relation to the ground, he then held his position. Because he was on one rein and Sunline come out, you're inclined to think he kept hanging in.
Yes.
My opinion is he held his ground.
It was just his ungainly action, you'd think is. She got out two horses, he's come in half a horse.
That's as I said.
Well, I mean, that's the interesting thing. I suppose the thing we can't get to the bottom of at this stage, and we will find out as this progresses, is what Greg Childs is actually protesting about, second against first. What are the grounds?
Once he sees that replay, I think Greg will have to pull out a Perry Mason trick.
Let's go back into the steward's room.
My horse was about to produce one final sprint. No sooner had he started to do that Northerly started to lay in and continually hammered into me all the way to the post. And at the same time, shortly after, Northerly started to lay on me. Sunline had continued to come from the inside out and severely interfere with my horse. No rider stopped riding. I've no doubt that my horse will have won the race.
Is that all you wish to say now?
Yes, sir.
Damien Oliver, do you wish to question Karen McAvoy in respect of his statement?
No.
Will you make a submission?
Yes, I believe that at the time that Kieran's horse and my horse have come together, that it's almost as much shift from the inside that it is my horses come in. And I felt that when we have come together, that it turned my horse's hindquarters, it brushed my hindquarters and turned my horse in. I did stop riding my horse and straighten the horse. And at the very same time, I felt that Sunline also shifted out. And it's unfortunate for Kieran, but he's been tightened for room there. But in my view, this happened far too close to the winning post, and the margin being 3/4 of a length from where Kieran's has been beating, that it's too great for this to be reversed. And I felt that my horse was entitled to win the race, and I felt that at the time that the interference occurred that Viscount was a spent force.
Karen McAvoy, do you wish to question Damien Oliver on his submission?
No, sir.
Greg Childs, do you wish to question Karen McAvoy on his submission?
No.
In respect of the protest against your horse and Northerly? Will you make a submission in respect of that?
Yes. In Viscount, I'll make a submission on behalf of Sunline.
Yes.
Sunline's interference happened due to I had to correct Sunline due to the fact that Northerly was getting in onto Viscount, who then in turn got onto my horse's hindquarters and turned my horse's rear in and its front head portion out. And that was because of Northerly getting in. If you observe, Damien Oliver's using the stick on Northerly in the left hand, and that's obviously for a reason. The horse is laying in. And I don't believe Damien stopped at any stage to correct his mount until after the damage had already been done to Sunline's chances through hitting Viscount in onto Sunline and turning her out. I had to stop and correct my mount because she got severely unbalanced.
Is that all there is to say now? Yes. Karen McAvoy, do you wish to question Greg Childs?
Yes, sir.
Can
Can I make one? Yeah, one other important point. Damien Oliver did stop riding, and that's obviously for a reason, because his horse was getting in.
Damien Oliver, do you wish to question Greg Childs?
I'd like to make a statement. I wouldn't like to question. Yes. Yes. I mean, I always carry the whip in the left hand on this horse. Which hand I carry the whip in is irrelevant.
Can I have a question, Charles? Yes. Or did you stop riding your mount?
I stopped riding to ride it. I stopped riding it to ride hands and heels, yeah, because you shifted out onto me. You carried Viscount onto me.
And that's because you got in on to Viscount?
Well, just as much as you got out onto me.
Mr Hawkes, any questions of any of the riders or any submissions?
I've got no questions of the riders, but I'd just like to put my own point of view across. They're two separate incidences. If you watch on the film, from the turn to the winning post, Viscount has not deviated one iota. In reference to Sunline has continued to drift out, and at one point in time has shifted really sharply, which in turn, all that particular time, has been worrying my horse at getting near the post when the pressure is the greatest. Charles was entitled to stop riding his horse, which he didn't, into mine, which unbalanced mine, which in turn, in my opinion, definitely, should have finished in front of Sunline. Relating to Oliver, he stated that, he never stopped. In my opinion, he continued to ride that horse all the way to the line. He kept laying in on top of our horse even before he even made our horse check, which in turn pushed it onto Sunline. He might have sat up the last bit, but the damage is done at the 100 metres where our horse was not entitled to deviate one iota. Oliver was entitled to stop riding his horse before he got past Viscount, because in that turn he was pushing us onto Sunline, and both riders are both at fault, and I think we're entitled to get the race.
Mr McKee, any questions of any of the riders or any submissions?
No, sir, but I'd like to make the submission where, as you can see by the film, Sunline shifted out one place all the way up the straight, whereas the likes of Northerly has shifted in at least 2 horses' widths. And you said we impeded Viscount as well as ourselves, who twisted onto us 50 metres short of the winning post.
Mr Kersley, any questions of any of the riders or any submissions?
No, a couple of statements. So whatever's been written in the past about Northerly laying in races is irrelevant in this situation. I'm firmly of the view that shortly after ending the straight that Sunline moved out maybe 1 horse. On the film it most clearly shows, and I'll be happy to run it through again, that Viscount's reined toward Northerly by the rider. There was space between Northerly and Viscount. He's clearly reined to get away from Sunshine into Northerly. I'm of the view that normally kept a straighter course in the straight than any of the other 3 runners. The other point I'll make to you is that turning for home, Sunline was 3 lengths clear of Northerly. Viscount a length or more clear of Northerly. Northerly came from behind them, beat them comfortably, and on the grounds of the protest by all riders, I can't see any reason to overturn the result.
As I said, the margin between the horses was 3/4 of a length by a long head. If you're all the way outside of...
I'd like to check the fact that, sir, that I made of the reining of Viscount out toward Northerly halfway up the running.
Pardon?
I'd like to re-emphasise the point of the rider of Viscount having to move away from Sunline, rein towards Northerly.
Mr Ringham, do you wish to...
No, stewards are now adjourning the inquiry while they deliberate. We might be actually just getting a quick view, and they can't get out the door too quick with the media throng in there, I think, and also a number of connections. Kenny, you want to say?
I'm not the judge, Simon, but see what sort of a judge I am. I think that Northerly will retain the race, but I think Viscount will get second.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I think definitely second against first dismissed without a doubt. Yeah. Third against first dismissed without a doubt. Third against second is 6-4 on.
I think it'll be uphill.
Well, I'll tell you what, the pictures you're seeing there now are people, they have not taken their eyes off the big screen here at Moonee Valley, as you wouldn't have taken your eyes off the screen at home, and don't, because we're going to take a quick break and come back with the result of this protest on the Cox Plate 2001. Welcome back to Moonee Valley on Carlton Draft Cox Plate Day. The stewards are still deliberating down there in the room. There is Northerly, not the official winner at this stage. There's, well, you just get a feel there's another chapter to be played in this. And joining us right now, Simon Marshall. Simon, coming off the track, one day you came in off the track here at Moonee Valley and protested in a Cox Plate.
I didn't want to come in, I'll tell you that. I thought I should have won on Better Loosen Up. And I protested 5th against 2nd, in which that was against Let's Elope. She got beat by Superimposed by a short half head and a developed print. And I got chopped out and did have to check severely from the 80-metre mark to the winning post, in which Let's Elope shifted in 4 horses. And the checking was quite severe. I had to really stand up in the irons. You don't really see Karen McAvoy check at all in this interference, which makes it very interesting, Simon. Yeah. And in my opinion, I think Northerly will keep the race, Ken. I think that he gave them 3 lengths at the top of the straight, and he beat them by half a length. Okay, Sunline initially shifts out onto Viscount, and you see Karen McAvoy just steer away from Sunline there on one occasion. And I think that makes it very interesting, because you brought up the comment, Ken, that Viscount come from behind Sunline and only got beat a long neck. Yeah,
no, I said, yeah, that's right. But Northerly, I agree with you, will clearly hold the races. We picked them up here. Sunline's in front. To tell you, in the centre of the next 3 horses, in the cerise colours, is Viscount. Outside of him in the yellow colours is Northerly. Now, you watch the horse in the cerise get squeezed at the finish. Just now you'll see, now Northerly just come in a touch. Then Oliver pulls him off, then Sunline come across, and the poor kid on Viscount, well, he was like forced out the back door.
I'll tell you what, too much courage, Kieran McAvoy. That's why he didn't stop riding. He was so keen to win it, he just kept going in there.
So, in my opinion, just watching that beautiful shot there, Northerly was the initial shifter. He shifted in on Viscount. Now, remember, Northerly's running away from Viscount. He's going to beat him quite easily. And Viscount's just trying to get back on Sunline. The initial shift was from Northerly onto Viscount, onto Sunline. Now, when Viscount shifts in onto Sunline's hindquarters, that turns her shoulders out onto Viscount, which pushes him onto Northerly. So I don't think that it'll be upheld.
Simon, the rules of racing state that if your horse shifts ground, you must stop riding and straighten it. Damien Oliver stopped riding and straightened his horse when it shifted. Greg Child's horse shifted out and he never stopped riding. Now, we'll see it just here almost in a moment. Now, watch Northerly come in first. It's just after he gets that crack with the whip. I can't see a lot wrong at there, because Oliver immediately stops riding it, pulls on the offside rein, but Childs, who's come out, most definitely come out, he doesn't stop riding until all of a sudden, right on the line there, crash, bang, wallop, there's loads of interference. I don't think you can take the race off Northerly. That's one thing I'm sure of. Yep. I'm not so sure of the protest 2nd against 3rd.
Okay, Ken, I agree.
3rd against 2nd, I should say.
3rd against 2nd.
The John Hawke's argument that Northerly was laying in on Viscount all the way up the straight and pushing, but not the 150 metres, the turn from home. So we're probably talking 250 metres out. Does that hold any credence to this protest?
Just before you speak, Simon, there, of course, was John Hawkes and Greg Childs and Trevor McKee speaking there. Trevor McKee on the left, the older gentleman, is the trainer of Sunline. Childs, the jockey of Sunline. And the chap doing the talking, quite ironically, is John Hawkes.
That's it. Now, an interesting thing. It all boils down to what has been said in the steward's room. Now, what has been said in the steward's room, do we know at what particular time the interference was made, Ken? And was it far enough away from the winning post to justify Viscount taking 2nd place from Sunline, or was it too close to the winning post where it shouldn't matter?
That's a very pertinent fact, and that will have a large bearing. If it was 50 metres further down the track, I'd be quite certain he'd get 2nd. But the fact that it was right on the line puts doubt into the matter.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Simon.
OK, we're going to take another break while the stewards are still deliberating here at Moonee Valley. The tension is rising. We'll be back with you shortly. Welcome back to Moonee Valley on Carlton Draft Cox Plate Day, and not much has changed other than we're getting a light shower at the moment and people have moved in back undercover, but they're still having their opinions as the The course monitors show us the protest on the big screen and also the small monitors. Damien Oliver's having another look himself. Possibly he's even watching us thinking, what are we going to say? I mean, is there any other angle we haven't covered on this?
One thing I want to stress is that the winning margin was 3/4 of a length. And I do not believe that either of those two horses could have beaten Northerly in the Cox Plate.
Now, Ken, can I just throw this at you? You've got a 3-year-old carrying 48.5. You've got another 2 carrying maximum weight for age. Are they just starting to weaken towards the end of that run, and that kept bringing Viscount back into the race? Am I fair in saying that, and how do you judge it?
Well, Northerly come from behind and went past. I don't think he was fading. I think that Oliver, riding on one rein, didn't panic because he knew he had them beaten. And I think that you're underrating Northerly, Viscount. Viscount's got a lot of courage. That's why he kept kicking back.
Simon?
Simon, I think in summing up that the stewards will look at the film, and the initial shift came from Northerly onto Sunline, which then entitled Sunline to shift out and squeeze up Viscount onto Northerly. So my tip is, early tip, it'll be upheld on both accounts.
Upheld.
Dismissed on both accounts.
You had me a bit worried there. I
thought
thought you'd gone crackers, kid.
I think like we lasted a few good men here in a court of law, but that's what it's like in the steward's room, and you've got to be very careful in what you say.
What if you were the chief steward and you said, oh, no, I didn't mean that?
There's Gleeson who won't be sleeping too well tonight. I'll be tipping.
Well, let's have a look at the dividends for the race as they stand at the moment before we know the result of this protest. Northerly's paying $3.30 and $1.30 to win. He's been protested third against second and first. Sunline ran second at $1.30, Viscount third at $2.20. Sunline has also protested against Northerly, so they're belting Northerly around the head at the moment. From what we gather, we don't think, from watching a lot of racing, Simon riding in a lot of races, you don't think there's any legs in the third against first, but there is...
Yeah, that's my opinion, yeah.
So Northerly will hold the race. Okay, the third versus second, let's go to the secondary protest from that point of view. Is there any legs there to hold that?
I think that is definitely 50-50.
Simon?
I disagree with you, Kenny, because I think the initial shift comes from Northerly pushing Viscount onto Sunline, which then she reacts and pushes out onto Viscount. Now, if Northerly hadn't
Simon,
been on the outside...
I disagree in as much I think there were two different incidents.
Yeah. I think the stewards are going to say that there's a little bit of both involved. Two horses caused interference to Viscount. Was it enough for Viscount to beat the second horse? I don't think so.
And they might get booed out of the joint if they upheld one against Sunline.
Yeah.
Before we get booed out of the joint, we're going to take a quick break, and look, if that result comes through, we'll come straight back to you. I can tell you that right now. Stewards are still deliberating. We'll take a quick break before we come back to Moonee Valley.
Connections of all horses. Now, the stewards have considered these objections, and it's the steward's view that Viscount did come out slightly away from Sunline, which was shifting out, approaching the 100 metres, and made contact with Northerly, which was shifting in. Northerly and Sunline then shifted further and contributed to Viscount being hampered. And whilst interference did occur, the stewards can't be satisfied that the result of the race was affected in respect of the protest Viscount against Northerly. With the objection against Sunline by Viscount, the stewards believe that Northerly, by shifting in, did make a significant contribution to that interference, and therefore all objections are therefore dismissed and the placings stand. Thank you. We'll see all your riders before you leave.
Well, there's the news from here at Moonee Valley. All objections have been dismissed. All objections.
Simon, I think it's a good thing. Cox Plate, certainly the winner wasn't interfered with. I just can't understand the protest second against first. Sure, McAvoy had the protest, but I reckon justice was done, don't you?
I do, Kenny. I think it's great for racing. I think